All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome to the show. As I mentioned, we have Rachael Todd joining us, Miss United States 2017. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you.
You are the first pageant champion that we've ever had on the show, so you're the first one. Yeah, the virtual crown coming over to you on that side.
Thank
And
you.
most people don't know, but you are also a health coach. And I wore my hat for you, my Namaste hat, because you're also a yoga instructor. So, um, talk to us a little bit about what you're up to now. I mean, obviously you're coming to us from a hotel room, so I don't know what you're up to. You're traveling all over the country, but fill us in on the latest with you as Miss United States.
Absolutely. For the past 7 years, have been studying integrative health, mindfulness, yoga, meditation, positive psychology, everything that I can just get my hands on that is in that realm. And the opportunity came up to go after a national title. And as a former title holder for the Miss America organization and experiencing being a state title holder in 2009 as Miss Florida, I had a taste of what that does when you have that title. So I went after it. I got the national title. And what I've been able to do is more than I could have ever imagined. I've been able to meet with the Alliance for a Healthier Generation in New York City, which they're part of the Clinton Global Initiative. I've also been working with the school system in Florida, because that's where I reside, on a county level to educate children on everything that we know we want to educate children on as far as real food goes, how to recognize it, how to not be afraid to cook at home, how to read labels. Those kids are the kids these days are very interested in that information. And I mean, publicly declared that my platform is changing the way America eats and addressing the overfed and undernourished epidemic. And I since have come to realize that on both ends of the spectrum, whether people are food secure or food insecure, everybody is overfed and undernourished. Because what happened, I've been in talks with Feeding America as well. And I was working very closely with them because my platform previously was hunger and homelessness. And so, working with food banks, you see the great need that was happening in 2007, 8, 9, 10. And it was more just of let's just get as much food in the most quantities that we can possible and get it to these people. And in speaking with the director of Second Harvest Food Bank in Orlando and with Feeding America, they now have a health initiative within Feeding America, because they're realizing that they've got to backpedal a little bit and say, okay, so we can't just accept all food donations and then just give out all this processed cereals and canned goods and frozen foods simply because it's the easiest stuff to give to these people. We have to go after the produce, and we have to be getting donations from the local farms, and we need to be the whole ugly produce movement, collecting the food that gets rejected from grocery stores. And they're having to kind of educate those people that were fed all of that food on what to do, because they were now they're in the obesity epidemic. Now they're facing diabetes, and they're the least educated as to what to do nutritionally to counterbalance all of that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because sometimes I'll go into schools and I'll be asked to do like a nutrition class or something like that, and I'm like, oh great, let's make some green smoothies. Let's just throw all this green stuff together. And some of the kids they don't even know what a green smoothie is. Like, what are you talking about? You can put
Right.
spinach in a smoothie. Like, some of them haven't even seen spinach before, let alone tried to eat it.
Right.
So what does that look like from from your side of things, starting at the very ground level? What is that first step that we kind of do as, I don't know if it's a country or a county, starting in the county level, I guess, and then how that expands out, to the United States.
For me, and in my experience with advocacy and working in all sorts of different social issues, education is key. And absolutely just getting out there and making people aware of the issue so that they, for lack of a better way of saying it, get a fire lit under them to do something about it. So opening people's eyes to the issue is absolutely imperative, especially the younger generation. I think that we have such an opportunity, and it sounds, I don't know, a little bit morbid, but my grandfather, he's passed last year, but he was very set in his ways on what he wanted to eat. He had type 2 diabetes. Nobody took the time to educate him on what he could have done to reduce his insulin, and he didn't care, to be quite honest. And so I'm kind of the mindset that we have to start with the generation that's raising children right now, like you do on your blog and your Instagram and your podcast, and you're feeding those children such nourishing foods and teaching them and letting them experience how to do it themselves. And then obviously the younger ones that are even younger than your children, they want that information. My boyfriend's daughter loves when we have rainbow dinners, and I've started calling them unicorn dinners now because I'm trying to get her to see that she has to eat a little bit of every color in the food groups. And then we one at a time introduce like, okay, what is purple food good for? Purple cabbage and black rice. And then we're moving into what's red food good for. And she loves that information. And when they feel like the food is fun, then they're all about eating it and cooking it. And I mean, like you said, it's a matter of what you're exposing them to. And so if you're giving them spinach and kale and broccoli and green smoothies from the time that they can have food, then they don't know any different. And so it's not crazy to them to have that stuff. So yes, education is key. Changing the labels, which is happening by 2018 in July, all foods have to be changed over to have how much added sugar is in a food. I think that that's a really big move for America, especially with the food industry and the way that we're fighting an uphill battle. That's awesome. I think having people aware of the detriment of sugar to their system is great. So again, education, advocacy, yes, but I really think it's going to be on a grassroots level. It happens in the home. It happens with the parents. It happens with school food and what those children are constantly exposed to, because the way that they're raised is how they're then going to raise their children, and so on.
So would you say that older folks, not necessarily your grandpa's age, but I find that like my parents, you know, my dad is a grandpa, obviously, but you know, I don't know. I don't know if there's a specific age where you notice that like it's just too late. If they don't want to change, they're never going to change. And I don't know. It's kind of like with my parents. I'm leading by example, and I see them changing. I see them making small changes, and that's really great. And I think that's a small victory. But you're absolutely right. It does start with the kids, and they're so open. They're so open to learning about stuff, and they're these little sponges that just absorb whatever you share with them. So it's educating ourselves as parents, and you know, that younger generation in our 20s to 40s, I guess, that we've really got to, you know, take on that responsibility and say, okay, we got to pass this on to our little kids. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I also have the same thing with my mother and my father. And I think in that case, them seeing how wonderful I feel all the time and me talking about it, and I allow them to ask questions rather than solicit the information to them. And they really tend to dig in on their own time. This generation also is not so privy to just Google anything and everything. That's not their first thought. They want to just talk about it, or they want to read it in a book or in the newspaper or something. So sending articles a lot of times, slowly but surely, I'm getting in there and introducing things very like one item at a time, as far as this is fermented food and this is what it's good for, has been key with those that are older than myself and yourself.
Well, let's talk about labels for a second. So when you talk about labels, what are the main things you look out for? And there's, you know, sometimes there's ratios. There's things that we need to look at ratio wise, like the dietary fiber to the sugar, et cetera, et cetera. And I might be totally wrong on that, but you know, fill me in. Talk to some of the audience about what you do when you're educating on label reading.
Yes. So the first thing I've started saying, and this is something I got from an article about a month ago, was the best food we can be eating is the one that doesn't have labels, right? So broccoli does not have a label unless you go and look it up. But at the grocery store, just grab the food that doesn't have labels first. So stick to the perimeter of the grocery store. And I tell my clients, you know, one ingredient or less is best. How many ingredients are in a sweet potato? One. Like I'm not a scientist. I can't break a sweet potato down to any less than that. And I can't make a sweet potato because I'm not the earth and it grows out of the ground. So just with children, I'm always in that mindset of like, how can we make it fun for them and easy so they can ask themselves that question. As you move into packaged foods, I haven't exactly found a magic number yet, but for me, it's like 5 ingredients or less, especially with traveling and grabbing bars all the time.
Yep.
So I make sure that there's 5 ingredients or less. Can I pronounce all of the ingredients?
Yeah, huge.
It's less about that graph and those numbers for me, it's about the ingredient list. And if you're upwards of 17 to 37 ingredients, that's no longer food. Hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so simple to those of us that are in all the time, but like when you put that in your body, the thing that your body is pulling from in order to create new cells and new tissue and new muscles is what you're giving it. So if you're feeding it chemicals, then what your body is pulling from is chemicals, and then what you become is a giant walking chemical.
Yeah.
Essentially. So you just have to watch the ingredients and how many are in there. And then when there's stuff on the label, I love asking kids to read those really long chemical compounded ingredients, because I say like, now where is that in your kitchen at home? And could you make this if you wanted to and you had the time? And they're like, no, I don't even know what that is. So that's a fun question to ask. And then as far as the actual numbers go, sugar, gosh, if we could just reduce the amount of sugar that people are intaking, I think that they would start to feel an immediate shift and difference in their mood and their energy and their temperament. And then that opens up such a world for them to be able to make different decisions when it comes to other foods, because that whole addiction mindset is taken away.
Yeah.
I know.
And sugar, like when you say sugar, you're talking about added sugar, like white processed sugar. I mean, sugar from fruits is different. It does not spike the blood sugar. It does not send that craziness to you instantly. It doesn't, have your insulin kick in.
By there, in my opinion, or what I've learned. And this was from That Sugar Film, which it's a great documentary I highly recommend, and I have all my clients watch as homework. If we take 10 oranges and we were to juice those 10 oranges and just chug the juice, that is going to send the same insulin spike that a soda would do. Our body doesn't know how to tell the difference.
Is that because we're missing the fiber?
Yes. So when an apple or an orange or something was created and it has the perfect amount of digestive enzymes, vitamins, minerals, fiber, that when it goes into the body, I always, for kids, sorry, everything's tuned towards kids.
That's perfect for us.
Up at the food that's coming down, and they're like, oh, I know exactly what to do with all these pieces. And I imagine that they're just pulling, okay, this is fiber, this goes here, and it's paired with the sugar, which is going to slow down the metabolism, metabolic rate that the insulin is spiked because it's paired with something. But when we just send those sugar molecules down, your body is like down there, the little guys that are in the stomach are like, oh my God, what are we going to do with all of this? Okay, shovel some into the liver, shovel some this way, just put it places because we can't handle it all right now. Oh, call in the insulin police, and then the insulin come, and all of a sudden your body is sent into this state that it's not meant to go into. And then we have the crash. So in conclusion, I'm a big fan of whole fruit, but I'm not a fan of fruit juices. And it's the same. I mean, you look at some of those juices that are in like the Starbucks bakery case, and you're looking at upwards of 38 to 47 grams of sugar in one of those bottles. And I hate to break it to you, that's the same as a soda.
Yeah, we got to be careful. Oh, good. It's good thoughts. It's good thoughts to have. And I love the way that you explain it for kids. It really is very friendly. The insulin police coming in, that's great. I love that. Okay, so I want to know, obviously you're traveling a lot, but what is your day-to-day like when you are thinking about food? Do you do like intermittent fasting? Do you eat later? Do you eat a 3 meal a day kind of thing? How do you think about food as fuel for your day?
Yes. So I think that what I've realized in reading about this button word of intermittent fasting is that I've kind of adopted intermittent fasting without knowing I was adopting intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
In that in integrative nutrition, we study listening to your body. And in yoga, we talk about listening to your body. And so I really just try to tune in and ask when I wake up in the morning, am I super hungry, or is the mentality that I should just eat because it means it's breakfast time? And a perfect example is this morning there was a fundraiser 5K here at this conference. So we woke up, ran the 5K, and immediately after, because of the mindset that it's breakfast time, they provided a breakfast as soon as you were finished with the 5K. Hash browns and omelets and sausage and potatoes, and I guess those are hash browns, and yogurt and all of those things. And I walked into the room and I just kind of got a hot tea and I was like, okay, am I hungry right now? No. So I went up to the room and did my thing. But I sometimes go to bed. I mean, I try to go to bed 9 to 10 p.m. and then I don't get hungry until, for me personally, 11 a.m. So that's almost 13, 14 hours of fasting. And I think another child analogy here to explain is that we have to slowly acclimate our bodies in the morning to get ready for food, because it's been sleeping and doing all the other metabolic processes for that many hours, that if we just wake up and immediately shovel in Go-Gurt and cereal and orange juice and a sausage biscuit from McDonald's or a chicken biscuit from Chick-fil-A, that the little guys down there are like just stretching and trying to wake up, and they're like, oh my gosh, we're not ready for all of this yet. Like, can you please give us a minute to just wake up and get our engines running? So a lot of times that's why we feel lethargic and heavy right after breakfast, because you just poured it all in there and the body wasn't ready. So I try to start with like a hot tea or hot water with lemon if I'm home. And then when I'm hungry, I look for some sort of, if I'm on the road, a really high protein, high fat, high carbohydrate smoothie. And I generally redo the whole menu when I go into one of those smoothie places, because if I'm in a food desert, they have no idea what it is that I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then for me personally, I steer away from pork and red meat and chicken simply because on the road, you just can't control where it's coming from. And I don't find that I feel my best when I have those sources. I do love seafood. And so when I am in a place where I know I'm getting it fresh or catch it myself on a boat, or I do enjoy seafood. But yeah, so as many vegetables as I can get into my system, usually like a giant salad for lunch, the biggest salad I can. Sometimes I order 3 salads and pour them into one bowl, and the waiter is just looking at me like I'm crazy.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good.
Avoid the dressings and all of that. Just need some olive oil and some lemon juice and some sea salt. Most of the time I tell my clients that just when you think you're drinking enough water, that's when you're not drinking enough water. I have this theory that everybody's walking around dehydrated, and when you start to like want to accomplish getting enough water in your system, is when you start to feel like you're going to burst with water. And then it's almost like 4, 5, 6 days in is what I'm experiencing with my clients, is that's when their body acclimates and says, oh, you're finally going to give me enough water. And it releases all of this water weight, and they start to feel more energized because your body's not holding on to water thinking desperately, like, when am I going to get my next supply?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it makes total sense. And then, do you do any desserts? Do you do anything like late night or anything like that? What's your vice? Okay, Miss United States, what is your vice? Your thing that you just can't get away from.
Awesome that this question comes up lately in all of my interviews, because of pageantry and because of what I do. And I will answer with I have totally broken my sugar addiction. I was oh my gosh, A&W root beer floats when I was in high school, because I was in cheerleading and dance and I could just afford to just put it all in there. That was my vice. I do not care for sweets anymore. Like, I go to a lot of group dinners, and of course the dessert gets ordered by somebody at the table, and then they bring, everybody knows, the 10 spoons around the one lava cake or whatever gets delivered to the table. And people love giving you a hard time because you're not grabbing a spoon. They're like, oh, come on, we know you want to bite. We know you want to bite. And what I've found is that that's just them feeling guilty about the fact that they want it. So they want to make sure that they can get you to break your, what they think is this superior discipline, which I don't have. Right. I don't have superior willpower. I just don't want it. But to answer your question about the vice and what's your guilty pleasure and what are you going to eat right after you're done with the pageant, that's always a big question. And I'm advocating and trying to encourage a lot of the women that are competing in any sort of capacity, as far as like the swims, like a bikini or fitness or pageantry, to stop. This is nothing against you. Stop giving into that question and giving the audience the pleasure that they want to hear, which is that you have somehow been suffering and starving yourself for the past 3 months in order to accomplish this, because that's counterintuitive to the message that we're trying to give as pageant winners, that we live this lifestyle so that we can be an example to others, not that we're just trying to do it for the 90 days before the pageant so you can look emaciated on stage, and then all of a sudden, as soon as it's over, you're going to go have all this food that you crave and that you desire far above the healthier food. To me, that's just giving that audience that they can then rest assured that they're not alone by the fact that they want to eat fried food and highly processed foods all the time, and then sit there in the audience wondering why they can't accomplish what it is that we're accomplishing. So the truth is, as soon as the pageant's over, I just go right back to what I was doing, which is everything I explained, because I love feeling great.
Well, let me adjust my question. And I think, so look, vice was not the right word. I need to know, what I need to know is what your favorite healthy food is to eat, to binge on, okay? Because we all know that the foods that we eat are micronutrient rich, okay? So there's a lot of foods that we eat that you can't eat too many of, unless you have a specific goal in mind, like you're, I don't know, trying to cut for a bodybuilding competition or something like that, right? But, you know, like for instance, for me, I love berries, and like I could eat berries all day long. Blueberries specifically, frozen, just like by the handful. And you know, people are probably like, "Oh, shut up, Corey! Like, give me a break," you know. But it's true. And so, you know, other than kale, because like nobody's gonna say that kale is their favorite food all the time, especially someone like us. But let's just say that you had any of these micronutrient foods to pick from as your fave, what would it be?
You're gonna laugh. Arugula.
Oh my God, you're kidding me. Come on. And like in a salad? In a salad.
I have a whole box of it in the hotel fridge.
That's all right. I believe you, and it's okay. It's all right.
If you had asked me like 3 months ago, it was avocados, and I always have an avocado in my purse because they're a perfect travel snack too, because you can bring a plastic knife on a plane. It's totally TSA approved. All you need is a little sea salt package or those little ones from McDonald's, which is not the highest quality salt, but that's fine. Cut it open on the plane, sprinkle some salt in there, and you've got a spoon and you're good to go. Or if you buy one of those less than desirable salads from the airport, but you have an avocado and you add it to that salad, all of a sudden you've got the super nutrients. So my friends always joke that they'll text me and say avocado check, and they expect me to send them a picture of the inside of my purse because it does have an avocado in there at all times.
That's so great.
Lately, because I think I overdid it on the avocados, I think I finally reached my max. I still enjoy them, but I don't want them every day, is arugula. And I don't know what it is, but you could put it on anything, and I will just give me olive oil and some sea salt, and I'm just eating the entire box of it. I don't know what it is. Lately, I've just been wanting it, and it's like spicy, and it's peppery, and it's delicious.
We love that. It's green, so we're all about that here. That's great.
You are, I know.
Okay, so yoga. What made you want to get into yoga, and how has that impacted your life? I've got to tell you that I have been hypertrophy training in the gym for a long time. So trying to get bigger, right? When I raced Ironman, I was like 135. I kid you not. And then I sit at about 145 normally, and I'm 155 right now due to the weight gaining with the muscle training. So it's great. I feel like as a vegan athlete, I need to show a little bit more muscle to show like, look, I'm not just a skinny vegan dude, right?
Right.
But with the yoga, I feel like it is equally as important, right? There's dudes out there that think they need to get all huge by working out in the gym, but they're forgetting that flexibility is the thing that will prevent you from being injured. Flexibility and yoga will help bring that center to you and get your mind focused, which nowadays so many people, I mean, that mindfulness, is so very important. So I guess what was it that started you on that yoga journey, and how do you find that to as a huge benefit for your clients?
True story is that, let's see, it's kind of been a process, but when I was Miss Florida, I was very overwhelmed. I was 22 years old and I dove into that job, not really understanding what was going to be required of me. And I was I love public speaking. I love people. I loved most of the aspects of the job. What I wasn't prepared for was being alone all the time in a car, driving around the state of Florida, having to grow up really quickly as far as managing my own schedule, addressing different audiences as the keynote speaker, diving into so many different social issues and being inundated with all of their facts and figures and kind of feeling like the world is going to HE double hockey sticks in a handbasket and I'm not doing enough. And so I had this like brain storm going on in the most literal sense where I was feeling really down all the time and really heavy, and you have to put on this face, and I didn't feel authentic at all, and I felt like cognitively nothing was aligning. Like I was speaking and doing one thing and I was feeling another way, and I was living just by the seat of my pants because I was moving 300 miles per hour. So I had this sponsorship as a membership to Equinox Gym in Miami. And I found that their yoga studio was in the basement of the gym in this most tranquil place I had ever been. And so I started just disappearing down there. I would go down there and take like 3 yoga classes if I had time. And a lot of times my director would not even know where I was. She'd be calling me. My phone would have like 10 missed calls. She thought I was dead. I was like, I've just been in yoga class. I don't really know what's going on down in yoga class, but me. I don't know what this yoga thing is. And then fast forward, I was on vacation post Miss Florida, and a woman led me through a yoga class with only about 4 other people in the room at this resort. And she came over to my forehead at the end of class. We were in Shavasana laying down, and she touched my forehead and she just whispered and she said, "Let go of the rope." And I just started bawling, and I just sobbed there on the floor. It was very embarrassing at the time because I wasn't used to showing my vulnerability. And I had gone through a lot of personal things with family prior to Miss Florida that I kind of bottled up. And I think that was the time that it was being released. And I did not like the fact that she could see that I was living in that tense, uncomfortable place of not facing any of that. And so after the class, I asked her, how do I become what you just did for me? Because I want to do that for other people. And she wrote down the word Kripalu on a piece of paper. That went into a book as a bookmark. 3 years later, I was also having another journey and crisis in my personal life. And I opened up this book and saw that word. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was supposed to go here 3 years ago. Googled it. Long story short, 12 days later, I was on a shuttle to the Kripalu Institute for Health and Wellness with only one bag and my yoga mat to go live there for a month to study yoga. And if anybody wants to become a yoga instructor, I always advocate if you can possibly do this program in Massachusetts, in the mountains, in the Berkshires, Kripalu is the most incredible place to go. And study because they immerse you in it. You're not just going once a weekend to go study. You're immersed in this yogic lifestyle and you're studying with all of these different people. And at night, you're getting to talk to them about their life experiences and their journey. And they really do this incredible job of causing you to just look inward and to reflect and to journal. And there's days of silence and they're scary because you're alone with you. And so that was my journey towards yoga. And to your point, it is immensely helpful to anybody training or doing something physically demanding, because not only the physical aspect is flexibility. I mean, that just makes total sense that they need to be flexible in order to be able to continue working out, to continue building bigger muscles. But the mindfulness aspect of it, because you can talk yourself out of a lot of things. And I'm sure you have experienced, being in the gym or being at home and having to do all the responsibilities that come along with raising a family and then still go get that workout in. You can talk yourself out of a lot of things. And in this day and age that we live in, a lot of times the analogy I give to my clients is we're in a tornado all the time. I mean, things are like, the bills are coming in and the kids have to go to piano lessons and karate and school, and you got to pack the lunches and you got to manage your relationships and work, and we can be on email 24 hours a day, and traffic and people honking and stoplights and almost getting into an accident, and that raises your cortisol. So being able to find center in the middle of that tornado and being able to just keep coming back to that place is so vital, especially in the society that we're all living in right now.
Brilliant. Man, I really, Kripalu, it's got me thinking a lot about that. My wife wants to do that. I don't know if I can send her away for a month, but if I did, like, it would be an amazing experience. So we'll have to think about that.
It's only 28 days, so it's actually just like the month of February.
Oh yeah, there you go. You're right. Yeah, it's all about perspective. All about perspective. Oh my gosh. Well, talk to me about what's going on right now, where we can follow you, how our listeners can get active in helping you in your journey to keep doing great things for kids and people all over.
Thank you. Yeah, my social media is Rachael Todd, Rachael, and Todd like the guy's name. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I actually have some really exciting news. I am going to now be venturing into the world of having an online platform as far as an online course. So I'm in the process of writing a 9-week course on removing, repairing, and replenishing your mind, body, and your soul. And so it'll be like broken up into thirds and spending 3 weeks on each of those aspects. So be on the lookout for that course coming out early next year. I am going to be a lot more active as far as videos go and content. I mean, this is all just because all of this is changing, as you know, the internet and the information space and all the ways that we have in order to reach people. And so my life has been studying and working and now being Miss United States. And so, again, being in that tornado, the idea of logging on to each of these social media platforms, logging on to edit my website or to send out a newsletter to tell people what I'm up to is exhausting. And so I've been very, very fortunate to have my own family approach me and say that they want to build around me and what I've created and what I've been working so hard at for so long, but have been unable to give any last bit of extra energy towards getting it out there to the world. So I'm really excited to announce that. And it's my own mother, my own father, and my own brother that are learning the ins and outs of the back end of, I mean, my father has been in computers for a long time, so we're not blindly walking into this, but they are learning SMM and SEO and the logarithms of Google and how all that works. So anyway, that was more than you asked for, but I'm really excited about it because my family has gone through a lot of personal struggle and a lot of personal changes and growth and setbacks, and it's been an incredible process of rebuilding relationships. So it's almost like this awesome testimony that these things can come full circle. And my parents are actually not even together anymore, but we're all going to be working together on this. And it's really cool because now I get to spend more time with them on the road. We're in conference calls and they're taking on managing my schedule, and I'm just now in charge of continuing to build the content and keep giving out the content. And the thought of not having to be the one that has to upload all of that stuff is so relieving. And so, yeah, just keep your eye out on all of that because that's where we're headed. And I am very passionate about getting this information out to my generation, especially in our generation, because we're the ones that are raising the next generation. And it's vital that we grab onto it and understand it so that we can pass it on so that those kids don't know a life without it.
Oh, Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today and for sharing this. I'll make sure to include all the links in the show notes, of course.
Thank
But
you so much.
gosh, you're in the middle of a hotel room at a conference and you took the time to speak to us, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much, Corey.